Now, there's a little trick that I want to show you as well while we're doing this. And this is something that I do on a regular basis. Especially if it's windy weather, what I like to do is put my pellet in first, then my pellets, press it down, like what I showed you before, like that. But then what I like to do is I like to do a thin layer of ground bait. I suppose in a way you're capping it all off, and the ground bait really conceals the pellets and minimises any pellets coming off on the surface. So I've just done a very thin layer of ground bait, and there we have it. That is the perfect setup for the method feeder. If you do your pellets or your ground baits like that every time, it will improve your catch rate tenfold. Right, it's time to make a cast now. This is a key part. I've loaded my feeder up, and I do not want to reel my feeder right to the top of the rod. I want a nice pendulum. So as you can see, I've got 4.5 foot, 4 foot of line between the rod tip and the feeder. That pendulum is so important, which ensures that as I bring that feeder behind me, it doesn't bounce, it's nice and smooth. On my reel, I've got a line clip, and that's ensuring that I'm going to hit the same spot all the time. And all I'm doing is I'm following the rod down with the line clip so the feeder hits the surface nice and softly on the surface. And that's when you find the feeder makes a plopping sound. When that happens, you know that you're hitting the lead side of the feeder on the surface of the water. And as I've explained, that's what we're looking for. The more times I do that, the more fish I catch. So let's have a cast. My marker is over there next to the green reeds. I've got a nice little bush there, just above the reeds. That's my marker. I'm just chucking it there. So I'm going to bring the feeder behind me, and as soon as the feeder's come behind me, I'm going to be looking at my marker. So let's have a go. Feeder behind me, nice and smooth, look at my marker, cast it out, hit the clip, and there, right next to the reeds. Around that area I've got 2.5, 3 foot of water, and that's the perfect depth. With it being a bit cooler at this time of the year, I'm finding that little bit deeper water, so it seems to be working today, that area. Here's a top tip for you, pellet bander. Now, as we all know what they are, loads of them about on the market, different styles. I've come up with my own little invention I've been using for a few years now, and I tell you what a tool. Really quick and easy, and it's efficient, which means I can get back in that water as quickly as possible because it's a lot quicker to put the pellet on. All I've got, old Matchman hook tyre. I've drilled a hole in my side tray, so that fits into place. It's there all the time, I know where it is. It's just quicker. Get my pellet band, stretch it open, get a pellet like that, lock it into place, slide it off the pin, and that's it. All done. Nice and easy and very quick. This is something for you to try, and I tell you what, it works, so keep it a secret. Dynamite bait, hook bait dip, absolutely brilliant. I've been using this all summer, it works an absolute treat. All I do, get a little separate tub like that, pour some in, look at the thickness of that, it's lovely. Really clings to your pellet. Pellet's on, so let's say just before I mould my feeder, dip my hook bait in it. It's that thick, I have to push it in. Look at that. Mould your feeder, put your pellet in, give it a try. You'll be impressed with the results. Right, now what I want to talk to you about is where to position your rod rest. First of all, I want to sink the line. Wind's died down, so I just need to use my fingers. I'm just touch ledgering here just to sink the line quicker. Right, what I haven't mentioned up to press is the softness of my quiver tip. And I'm using a really soft quiver tip. And also, as you've noticed, I'm not using a rod rest, I'm using my keep nets instead. And there's a big reason for that. The problem with a rod rest is you can only fix your rod in one position. Or if you're using like a bit of a bar rod rest, you can move it a bit. But the beauty about a keep net is you can move that rod as much as you want. And as long as one of the runners, like what it is here, is locking the rod in place, you will not lose your rod. Now, with the method feeder, what you don't want to be doing is tightening really tight up to the feeder, because every time you get an indication, that's a fish actually hitting the feeder trying to get at the bait. And the tighter that line is, the more chance you've got, especially in this situation, where the feeder is on a slope against the far bank. There's a very good chance if your line's too tight, there we go, got a fish on. There's a very good chance that your line is too tight and the actual feeder will move down the shelf. So by actually using a really soft quiver tip and only slightly tightening up to the feeder, so the tip is tight but slack at the same time, you get one of those little indications and your feeder won't move out of place, because what we're trying to achieve is your hook bait staying in place where the bait is. And as soon as your feeder actually moves, there's a very good chance that your hook bait has moved away from your feed. And that's when you don't get a bite. The longer you can manage to keep that hook bait right next to the feed, the quicker you get a bite. And as we've just seen there, it didn't take long for us to get a bite because I've managed to keep my tip soft. And there we go, nice little F1. Beautiful fish, lovely. Be happy catching those all day long.